10 minutes. That's all you get inside a Y Combinator interview. No long pitch, no dramatic storytelling. Just 10 intense minutes where partners decide if you're building a future or just talking about it. Y Combinator has funded over 5,000 startups in the last 2 decades. But here's the brutal truth. 96 to 98% of founders who apply get rejected. So, what are they really looking for in those 10 minutes? Is it all about polished decks you spent the last 6 months refining? Or is it about the well-rehearsed answers? No, because in that room, slides don't matter. Performance doesn't matter. Even confidence alone doesn't matter. What matters is something much simpler and much harder to fake. All they care about is this. Are you the kind of founder who is already building something that can become massive? Now, let's break down what actually happens inside a YC interview and why most founders fail before minute 5. Founded in 2005, Y Combinator has backed companies now worth hundreds of billions collectively. But what actually makes YC choose these companies in just a 10-minute interview? Well, the actual process starts long before the interview. Founders submit an application explaining what they are building, why it matters, and the traction they've achieved. And then, YC selects only a small percentage of startups based on real execution, not just ideas. Then comes the interview itself. Founders typically face 3 to 5 partners. The conversation starts immediately and moves fast across products, traction, and decisions. Answers are interrupted. Assumptions are challenged. This blunt approach comes from experience built over thousands of investments. Let's understand it by looking at what Airbnb's founders did when they first went through YC. They did not walk in saying, "We are building a global hospitality company." They walked in with a tiny experiment that was already working. They showed YC the early proof that when conferences in San Francisco sold out, they rented out air mattresses in their own apartment to strangers. And people paid. That was the first signal. But growth did not magically happen after that. So the founders did things most startups would never put in a pitch deck. They went door to door, meeting hosts themselves. They personally onboarded early users. They realized listings looked untrustworthy, so they rented a camera and photographed apartments on their own. They kept talking to users, fixing problems manually, and repeating the cycle. At one point, they were so broke, they designed and sold cereal boxes to raise cash, just to keep the company alive while testing demand. That level of persistence is what YC saw. Airbnb convinced YC by showing they would do whatever it took to make the idea real. And that's how YC funded them with a small standard investment of around $20,000. Not because the market was big, but because the founders were already behaving as if the company would succeed. DoorDash also did not enter YC talking about logistics infrastructure or billion-dollar delivery markets. They walked in with evidence from a single suburb. The founders launched a basic website called PaloAltoDelivery.com to test whether local restaurants needed delivery help. Orders came in and they handled everything themselves. They answered customer calls manually. They took orders to restaurants themselves. They delivered the food on their own. They showed YC that demand already existed, and they were in the middle of it, doing the work themselves and learning from every order. YC funded them because they were already operating the solution, not just proposing it. Rappi took a similar approach. Instead of explaining their delivery network, the founders showed it in action. They placed an order for a cold beer and fulfilled it themselves, proving how the request moved from placement to pickup to delivery. They did not talk about logistics. They ran the logistics. That visible execution is what convinced YC to fund them. Airbnb, DoorDash, Rappi, different companies, different geographies. But one thing is clear. In those 10 minutes, YC backs founders who are deeply committed and already executing. Thus, the takeaway is clear. YC is not looking for can this idea work someday? Instead, they ask, are these founders already making it work today? So, stop rehearsing and polishing your pitch. Instead, build, fail, learn, and rebuild. And if you like this video, like, share, and subscribe for more stories like this. Also, if you are building something serious and looking for the right funding and mentorship, Exit Fund is here to help. Know more at exitfund.com.